The day was freezing. My brain was foggy and the children were small bundles of energy. I had another chest infection, fighting breathlessness, and the 5-minute school run seemed like climbing a mountain in driving snow. I went to bed, spent. Then, at lunchtime, I got the call, the voice dripping with disdain. "You've forgotten your children's lunches, Mrs. Carter." And there it was. The useless word hit me, screaming through my mind, reminding me of all the past uselessnesses, large and small. I was a useless mother who couldn't even manage to feed her children. We speak uselessness over ourselves for many reasons. Some of us are sad. Some of us are sick. Some of us are just weary. Some of us have failed. Some of us think we have failed even when we haven't. Some of us look at the lives of others and think that we are useless in comparison. Perhaps you picked up this book because you feel like you are useless. Maybe you believe that if you were just a little bit more useful, you would be worth more. Perhaps you look in the mirror and you say, "Useless." You burn a cake and you say, "Useless." You mess up something at work and you say, "Useless." You shout at your child and you say, "Useless." This sense of uselessness can spill over into our faith too. How we see ourselves influences how we think God sees us, and how we feel about ourselves in our church communities. In church and in groups, we might feel like we're always saying the wrong thing, or we just don't know enough. We feel as though we can't be useful because we're not very good at reading the Bible, or praying, or spending time in worship. Maybe we don't feel we're enough because everyone else seems to have a lovely home to welcome others into, and we live in a shabby flat. It would be great to be properly used by God, we might think, to be part of God's plan for reaching others and making a difference. But how can we be when we feel so useless? The dregs of society. When I was 13 years old, my family went to live with the forgotten people. My dad became the vicar of a struggling church on a poverty-stricken estate in Birmingham in central England. The congregation were terrified of the local community, where crime levels were high. A young girl had been raped in the church grounds not long before we arrived. A renowned local gang used our front garden and walls as their meeting place, taking drugs, having sex in plain sight, and threatening my family. We were uprooted and lost, shipwrecked and bewildered, unable to understand why God had called us to such a hideous place. All around us, local people were known as the underclass, the dregs of society, the scum. They descended from generations of people who thought themselves nothing, people who'd lived in the inner city slums and were then rehoused in the post-war clearances. The new estates were supposed to bring hope, but instead became places of fear. Unemployment was high, and there was an assumption that these people were unemployable. They themselves lived deep inside these assumptions. It was hardwired in them that they were without use, so they might as well forget trying to get a job. They were thought of as useless, and they thought of themselves as useless too, disempowered to combat the story told about them for so long. Outside the estates, the middle-class suburbs looked on with distaste and distrust. Here were the undeserving, the unproductive, the useless. Stay away from them.